forgot about it and went to bed. And around 1:30 that morning or 2, I woke up and I was so scared I couldn't move. Someone tried to kill my neighbor above me, and they put 36 bullets into my bedroom while I was asleep in my bed. If we had gone into that case to help move the spirits on, I probably would have been home and awake and walking around. Normally I would have been up taking a shower after that, but because the spirit was there and I got frustrated, I went to sleep because I didn't know what he wanted. I got up after that the next morning, and I remembered that I had Ghost Radar on, and it only said a couple words. It said trap, it said home, it said danger, it said, I forget, like 4 or 5 words only, and they were all relevant to what happened. So I think we probably all feel like he was there kind of trying to warn me, because if I would have been standing up, there were 3 bullets that were close to my head where I was laying down.
Really?
The girl above me got hit.
Through the wall or through the floor?
I'm lower level, she was above me.
Uh-huh.
And so if he would have got one through the main window, I wouldn't be here. If I was up walking around, I would have got.
Normally would have been.
Yeah, I normally would have been up taking a shower. Because
Right.
of the job I had then, I kept late hours and I would have been up. But like I said, I just got frustrated, and unlike me, I don't know what he wants. I'm just going to bed.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hank's Think Tank. Guess who we got in here again? For the 3rd time in a row, we got Spring Paranormal Investigators. Of course, we got Mark Hogan here on my left, and this is going to be a great podcast. I've been looking forward to this one, and we always have a good time when these guys show up. And welcome everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Now, normally I do a whole boatload of introductions. I'm going to dispense with those, and the reason why is because I want you guys to be able to go back to videos 1 and 2 where you can get the introductions there. It's all the same people. They're all in the same places. So nothing's different except for Rayden's haircut. And he thinks I didn't notice, but I did. So good to have you guys back. And everybody's looking healthy and looking happy. So glad to see you. So what's going on? What y'all been up to?
Oh, super, super busy.
Yeah?
Yeah, the pandemic just heated everything up, and it just keeps going from there. And
Really?
Have y'all close to hurricane season and all of that?
Have y'all come across any entities that have the coronavirus?
Not yet.
Not yet? Hey, you never know. You know?
Someday, that'll be one of the causes of death. Someday we'll have to put in there.
Wow. Yeah. I've got a bunch of cool questions to ask you guys, some stuff I've been thinking about that we hadn't covered in the past. And so I'm excited about that. And I don't know if it's coming through on the mics, but I can sure hear it raining outside.
Yeah.
It's starting to really come down. And it's a good thing that this building only leaks in a few small spaces.
Mainly on that side.
Yeah. If you start feeling something, just deal with it. It's just the way it is. So Mark's new to you guys. He hasn't met any of you yet. So I'm going to let him lead off with basically the first question and see what happens.
Well,
Go!
I'm on. So, I think I've got everybody's name. Amy is the boss. And Lynette, and Michelle, and Josh, and the kid with the haircut.
Rayden.
Rayden?
Yeah.
Rayden. Jason, and Amy's husband.
Yeah. Or Chris.
Chris, either one works, right? Mrs. Amy, how's that? So, what have you guys been into since the last podcast that I saw? This is my first time meeting you, but I have watched a bunch of stuff. Are there any new active cases?
Oh, yeah. We're having new cases pretty much every week right now, so we're kind of actually doubling up on some weekends. Like, for instance, tonight after we leave here, we'll be in Katy for a Malevolent.
That's where I live.
For a few weeks. So we had one in Dallas that we will be going back to clear Memorial Day weekend.
A lot of traveling, huh?
We have a new one about to start in Friendswood. We have one we just started last week in Baytown. And we have another one in Cold Springs that will be starting.
You're just
next
all
couple
over the
weeks.
place, huh? Do you ever go out of state?
We've had a few people that were interested out of state. I am very much about trying to not take advantage of anyone. Most big states have paranormal teams. Most big cities have other paranormal teams. So usually I'll encourage the person, if you have someone near you who can help you, reach out to them first,
Right.
rather than having to fly us there and
Yeah.
all of that, pay for a hotel for all of us, because I mean that gets expensive, and when this is usually not a planned expense, I hate to have to see
Right.
people do that. But I always tell them, if that doesn't work, or if you can't find a team that you're happy with, by all means we will come.
Right.
I just don't want to put them through that if we don't have to.
And from what I understand from watching the previous podcast, you don't charge a nominal fee or anything. It's just pretty much cover the expenses.
That's it. Yeah, strictly a
So,
travel fee.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that if the check was to bounce or something, they would have to be repossessed.
I like it. That's pretty good.
I like
We use that
repossession
line.
joke.
We need to kind of like add that into the paperwork.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Needs to be in the contract.
So, okay, first question. What's the difference between a demonic and a malevolent?
Okay.
Same thing? Different things?
Different thing.
Wow.
A malevolent, generally, I mean, it can be a cryptid or something like that too, but generally
A
it's
what?
a human spirit that
Okay.
is angry or upset.
Okay.
They can be pretty powerful. You can have powerful human spirits that are just really, really angry and acting out, and they can be physical as well. And a lot of times people will think that's a demonic. So I get the call, oh, I've got a demonic. Probably not. It's probably that. It's probably that you have a human that's very upset. Demonics are much rarer.
Yeah.
So we
But you do come across-
predominantly malevolent cases.
But you do come across demonics here and there.
yes.
And demonics aren't the souls or whatever of people. They're something else.
They were never human beings.
Right.
Wow.
That's
And are there different types of demonics? Like, A personality, B personality, stuff. I mean,
there's a hierarchy. Just like angels, you hear you have different choirs of angels.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. You have many tiers of, let's say, level of ability and how close they are to Lucifer or Satan or whatever you want to
wow.
title that as. Braden's pretty good with the classification if you want to
So
go
is this
through
one.
them. You guys can.
I think is it bottom marquees once because there's so many that it's
Yeah, there's a
below
lot.
it that there's like you basically like think of it if you're thinking of it as like a monarchy system. You have your foot soldiers and your grunts, and there's so many of those that it would be hard to probably break down. But the top they're referred to as the marquises, the dukes, the princes, and the kings, and each one has more within it. But at each tier you go up, the stronger they are.
Wow.
And that stuff's been back to 1700s. That was when they figured all that stuff out and kind of wrote it into different books. So
And so can they communicate like verbally or
They
through means
can.
by which you can understand what
They
they're
usually don't,
attempting to say?
but they can.
Huh.
What if they're speaking Latin to you or something?
they can.
They can. Generally, the only time you will have like a conversation with one is if they are possessing someone or communicating through another individual. They don't have reason or want to talk to us. They don't want our help.
Yeah.
They don't want anything from us. They want your soul.
Yeah, they didn't call
They
you.
want to drive you mad and make you do something to hurt somebody else or hurt yourself so that they can claim you. So they really, Ghost Hunter comes in and, hi, can you light up the flashlight for me? They're like, what
So
can
they
I
don't
for
do
you?
that.
Very, very rarely will you get that type of response out
Really?
of demonic. They tend to hide when we go in. And generally we know they're there by feeling it out, sensing it out. We've been in those situations, so we kind of know what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And the spirits that are there often will be obviously very unhappy that they're there, so they will usually out them to us and let us know that there's something going on
Wow.
that we need to be looking
Don't forget the demon. He's over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
And
he's
so-
bothering them too.
And
Right.
so would the spirits and the demonics kind of be on the same or within the same realm or on the same plane, I guess? And that's how they can see them or sense them or whatever?
Well, demons, in theory, are supposed to stay in hell, but we all know they're influence peddlers, right? They come up here and they try to sway you and they try to get you to do things. And depending what your religion is and what your beliefs are, there's a lot of people who acknowledge the existence of demons, but look at them as more of a mental thing. If you're thinking of doing something bad and all, well, you're probably being influenced in this kind of thing. A lot of people don't accept that they can interact physically and take part in our physical world, which we know they can. And thankfully, it doesn't happen a whole lot, but it is becoming something that is happening more and more as time's going on. I know several of the paranormal teams that we're friendly with and that we talk to are having the same kind of thing we are, where the cases are getting worse and worse, and that's getting more and more common.
Do you think maybe part of that is from last year's pandemic? People are staying home, they're getting bored, and the entity's getting bored. They're trying to make something happen, scare somebody, or ask for something, or they're just around them more, right?
I think it for sure kind of contributed to it, because a lot of times you're out at work, you're doing something else, and your focus is off of it. Whereas we've gotten a couple lighter cases recently. Actually, it's really strange. It's like a really bad one and then a really light one. It's kind of interesting, but a lot of people are just now noticing, oh, there's something a little weird with that, and they've had that time to kind of sit back and analyze it and be like, okay, something isn't quite right. But back to the demon thing as well. It depends upon your definition of demon too. Like, different religious beliefs have different opinions on it, but a demon technically in Christian terms is anything that's not directly from God, or it doesn't directly serve God, that's non-human.
Correct.
So things like in like cryptid lore and stuff, like jinn and shapeshifters and stuff, would technically be considered under Catholic beliefs demons. However, they're not from hell, so the terminology there can get kind of weird.
Wow.
Or mixed up,
Shapeshifters. Yeah, I recently saw a thing about Skinwalker Ranch that was pretty freaky. Makes you wonder about that place. So something's definitely going on there. But
Where's this?
it's
Utah.
Yeah, it's in Utah. You'll have to watch it tomorrow, wouldn't you? It's freaky. It's freaky. So it's pretty good. But yeah, Skinwalker Ranch. There's just all these strange things that happen there. Just weird electrical stuff, and even like radiation burns just kind of out of nowhere, and microwaves, and it's all kinds of freaky stuff.
There was a
going on.
ranch down there in, where was that, Santa Fe? Guys, chickens were possessed.
Okay.
Poltergeist. I'm sorry.
Possessed chickens. I don't know where
Please
to
continue.
begin with that one.
There you go.
They can't all be winners.
Yeah, that one kind of fell apart on you. Sorry. So
We did have a shapeshifter case recently, though. The case that we've been working in Dallas that we're going back to clear Memorial Day
Really?
weekend. We had a shapeshifter
So-
involved in that.
what? What?
So these two ladies really were the ones to pick up on what was going. Initially, when I got the call, it was, we have multiple spirits. We think we have a demonic.
Okay.
Because they were being physically attacked. Bad attacks, being strangled, being scratched. They've got a lot of little kids in the home. Kids were being affected, and kids were seeing things, and they were terrified to sleep in their rooms. So it initially came in as, we think it's a demonic, and probably not. Let's get there, let's see. And it's not. They have a malevolent that was causing a lot of problems. They have several other spirits that just want help and don't want to be caught up in that. And then they had a shapeshifter, which is like a Native American, in this case, type spirit, that the malevolent was working with to harm the family.
And what do shapeshifters do, actually?
They
They can take on the mass of another animal or another person or whatever, right?
They can.
In this
You're getting good at that mic thing. I like it.
in this past case, we in this specific instance, I mean, obviously it could vary drastically across the board, but the shapeshifter was imitating one of the family members' dead relatives, trying to scare them and just showing up to them as different people that they know or stuff to to intimidate.
Creating an apparition
Yes,
of
it
someone
would,
they knew.
It would show up as one of the family members' fathers who has passed away, just to scare them, and its entire goal was just scare them to get them out in that specific instance. But like she was saying, it was actually a Native American human spirit that became something more. And there's something with that where the more spiritual type of a person, like we've ran into people that practice witchcraft in life. And it seems the more spiritual you are in life, you actually have a greater power over your physical form in death. So entities like that usually become, I guess, more than human in a sense, and can be perceived a lot more easily as, oh, that's a demon. Well, no, it's really not.
Well, and Lynette's probably the best one to explain the more enlightened spirits, because she deals with more of those, I think, than any of us directly.
Yeah, like which kind?
Pull that microphone around.
Any of them.
Which kind?
There you go. That's good.
Yeah.
Use him as an example since we're talking about Dallas.
I mean, well, like doppelgangers can do that. We've had cases like early on. We had the one that would take the form of the clients. The lady said she came out of the shower and she saw herself.
Yeah, that wouldn't be cool.
No. So, and I mean, yeah, they can mimic. They can look just
Wow.
like you. They can sound just like you. It's kind of weird. But that was just, they were just normal human spirits that were in that case.
Can you photograph something like that?
It's
Or it's just pretty much zoomed into their mind that they see it.
I mean, it's sometimes you can, a lot of times you can't.
And with the doppelganger activity, or any time that you've got an actual apparition that's able to show theirself, it's usually only for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
So to be able to snap that picture, at the right time,
Right.
have your camera ready, type thing. It's real difficult to do.
It'd have to probably be a static camera set up already.
Right,
like
and that type of stuff, you do get some footage and video and pictures. And
Yeah.
I believe
But
last
the-
time we talked about the Hotel Ott briefly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not allowed to use that photograph legally. If we could, we would. But in that photograph, there actually is an instance of you can actually see separate entities in the photograph. So
in the mirror, right?
the mirror,
I remember
yes.
hearing
there's
that.
like 3 or 4 that you can see in the mirror, and it's an amazing photograph. But not all the times we catch them at random.
Right.
I just thought of an example, though. The case I was talking about with the doppelganger with the lady, we had a recording when the 3 of us were in the client's bedroom, and it sounded like me, but only one of the audios picked up on this voice, and we were all sitting together, the cameras were together, and they were having a conversation. I was just kind of spacing out, looking all over. I don't think I said anything, but in the audio, in the background, really clearly on, I think only one of the recorders, you hear somebody go, hee, 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 and like snarky, and at first they thought it was me, and I'm like, no, I didn't talk. It sounded exactly like me, and I got mad. I'm like, you're just making fun of me. And then I got home, and I'm like, okay, I'm sleeping with all the lights on, because it sounded just like me.
Wow.
And so that one we got on audio. We didn't get a visual of that, but that, I'm here to attest that, I mean, it's creepy. It's creepy.
Yeah, it would be.
And you brought up a good point, that one of the audio recorders caught it. A lot of times we'll be in a room having a session or whatnot. We'll have an audio recorder here, we'll have an audio recorder over there, a video camera here, so forth and so on. Only one of our devices will pick stuff up sometimes.
And that can be in a small room too.
Yeah.
It's like the spirit chooses to speak into something, one of them, and the others just it doesn't pick it up.
That energy just directed in one little
Yeah.
location.
To speak to an even greater point with that, just the other day, he was reviewing a case, and on the audio picked up a voice or a noise, and I heard it when we were in the session, but nobody else heard it. And I was like, did you see that? And I'm like,
Which is uncommon too. A lot of
Yeah.
times we'll actually hear stuff in an investigation, hear a voice or whatnot, and
But it won't show up on
audio.
video or audio or
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
Where
Wow.
only one person will hear something,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
everybody else in the session is oblivious to what's sound just happened.
There was that one case where everybody heard it.
Yeah.
And there are times they will come up and whisper in your ear directly.
Oh, that
They
would
wanna
freak
say
me
something
out,
to you. You can feel it, that there's something right there, and you'll hear it right in your ear. Like they're right in your eardrum, so you know, and you'll look at somebody else and, did you hear that? No.
Guaranteed I could run off fast enough to leave my ear there. Yeah.
Well, like when we had the case out in West Texas, we were in the bunkhouse, and me and him had gone off into our bunk room. We had come out to go to the common area where the girls were at, and I was in front of him. He was right behind me, and I turned around. I said, yeah, and he said, what? I said, you just called my name, right? He said, no.
The same thing actually happened to her later that night, where somebody called hers. Yeah, and it was like, what? Huh?
And I did
Somebody
the same
called
thing.
me.
I turned around and looked at him. You just called me. No. But that happened to Jason earlier. And then he stood in our room and watched me.
Yeah, I physically saw him. Like I was like in that point where I'm like half in, half out of sleep, and I just opened my eyes and there's just a dude standing in the corner, and I was just like, not cool.
Yeah. Really.
I don't know how y'all sleep at all, because I'd be thinking some of these are going to be following you home or something.
Right.
Well,
They'll attach to you,
in
and
that
that's it.
particular case, we were really tired because we had driven in on the Friday. After I had worked a half day, some of us had. I think she had, and we drove in and we investigated a little bit that night, and then went to bed. But we had to get up because the homeowners were taking really good care of us, and they made us breakfast and everything. And then we had to go explore the property during the daytime so we could kind of see where we needed to go. And it was so big that their son actually took us and guided us through it, which was very good. But we were exhausted from having done all of these things. So when we got to bed, he's standing there. Well, can't you see him? He's standing at the end of your bed and he's staring at you. And I'm like, I really don't care what he's doing, but he needs to come back tomorrow because I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. I am not in the mood to talk to anybody right now.
I wouldn't be able to handle that.
I think one of the only times that I ever got freaked out, and it was briefly, was in the last house we lived in right before we moved. I don't know if it was relevant to a case at all.
With you.
She was walking down the hallway, and my room was like, if we're coming down the hallway, it split off into the office, and then it split off to my room. And she was like looking in the office and saw what looked like me look at her and then crawl behind the desk. And then she was like, what was that? And then she looked in my room, and I was just laying on my bed.
Wearing the same clothes
that I was at that moment.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, are you sure? And we tried to debunk it. We looked at like, could it have just been this manila folder over here that you thought looked like a person? And I sat there just trying to rack my brain, and I couldn't find a reasonable explanation for what she saw. No reflection, nothing. And it was that one tripped me out for a couple minutes.
He's a prankster, so I really thought, okay, he's messing with me. And I walked into the room and I said, I saw you go behind the desk. You can come out now. And when he didn't come out, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go pull him out because I'm busy. I'm doing something. And I walk around and he's not there. And it was okay because I saw him as I was coming out.
Right.
He didn't have time. There was only one way in and out of the room. He didn't have time to get back out of that room. I would have seen him. So it was, okay. Now I don't know what I'm dealing with. And I'm just standing there and he comes in, what are you talking about? And so I had to explain.
Well,
And
you have an official debunker here, right? Did you look into that and come up with anything?
First I'm hearing of it.
He was on a brief hiatus from us. He has a little one, very young.
Ah.
And so he had taken a hiatus for a bit. while he was-
Congratulations. Boy or girl?
Boy,
You're in
just
trouble.
turned 2.
Yeah, it was a while ago now.
Yeah, that was a
it's
good
been a
one.
while.
And we've all got activity that happens occasionally around us at homes, or at our homes generally. For some of us, other places other than just homes. But we don't, as a rule, most of us don't live in a place that has spirit activity.
Except for Michelle.
Except for Michelle.
I want to hear about that.
But generally when something does happen, we're able to associate it with a case, a spirit that's
Just
popping in to check
follow-
in on us, following us,
No.
eavesdropping, or trying to
Yeah.
intimidate with scratches or stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, it happens.
Unfortunately, though, the
Oh,
ones
they also give information. They don't always follow us to do bad things. So they'll follow us to like help us, right, guys?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah,
that
for
does
sure.
happen.
You get the
tell
nice
the
ones.
story?
Well, what do you mean by that though? I mean, how do they help you?
To tell the story. Tell the story. Tell the story.
Tell the story.
Which story?
Rex.
which of the ones?
Yeah,
Whichever-
Rex is
Oh.
a great example.
Okay, I didn't forget about it. They went to a case, and I probably was working on it. I didn't go, but I helped them out because I'll pick up on spirits, and they visit me in my apartment sometimes to tell me things, and I realize I sound crazy. But we went there to try to talk to the spirits in this, I think it was an apartment, and clear them. And the client they didn't show up, and we had to go home early, right? So I got home, and the spirit from that case, his name was Rex. He was there with me, and I didn't know what he wanted, and I was kind of tired, and I'm like, what do you want? I'm sorry we couldn't clear you. We'll work on something later, because we can sometimes help them remotely. And I was getting frustrated, and normally I would stay up later or take a shower, and I'm like, I don't know what you want. I'm going to bed. And I went to bed, and I don't know if I should bring Ghost Radar into it or not. It's an app. It's like a game app on your phone. It's not.
Okay.
It picks up on words, like spirit words, and I don't use it.
Zero stock.
Yeah, I don't use it in investigations, but I turned it on and forgot about it and went to bed. And around 1:30 that morning or 2, I woke up and I was so scared I couldn't move. Someone tried to kill my neighbor above me, and they put 36 bullets into my bedroom while I was asleep in my bed. If we had gone into that case to help move the spirits on, I probably would have been home and awake and walking around. Normally I would have been up taking a shower after that, but because the spirit was there and I got frustrated, I went to sleep because I didn't know what he wanted. I got up after that the next morning, and I remembered that I had Ghost Radar on, and it only said a couple words. It said trap, it said home, it said danger, it said, I forget, like 4 or 5 words only, and they were all relevant to what happened. So I think we probably all feel like he was there kind of trying to warn me, because if I would have been standing up, there were 3 bullets that were close to my head where I was laying down.
Really?
The
They came
girl above me
through the
got
wall.
hit.
Through the wall or through the floor?
I'm lower level. She was above me,
Uh-huh.
and so if he would have got one through the main window, I wouldn't be here. If I was up walking around, I would have got.
Normally would have been.
Yeah, I normally would have been up taking a shower. Because
Right.
of the job I had then, I kept late hours, and I would have been up. But like I said, I just got frustrated, and unlike me, I don't know what he wants. I'm just going to bed.
What area of town were you living in?
I live in North Houston.
Okay.
It used to be an okay area. It's a little dodgy, and I'm trying to get out of there. But that's
Yeah.
the first shooting, that we've had, and I've been there like 14 years. So
36 bullets came into your
into my
apartment?
bedroom while I was asleep in my bed.
What's crazy
Yeah,
is
but
Wow.
that was a bunch of people.
Huh?
Or somebody
One
was
guy.
reloading.
One guy just showering.
I was so scared. I got on Facebook, and God bless, Michelle was there, and I talked to Michelle, and then Jason took over because I don't have family, and who's up at that time in the morning? And I'm like, okay, somebody
Right.
talk to me because what's going on? The cops had to come. It destroyed my bedroom. It went through my closet and ruined all my clothes. I mean, this kid he wasn't a very good aim because there's still a bullet hole. I actually have a picture of it because they haven't painted my front door. I have actually a picture of it on my phone. But yeah, he got bullets everywhere. He didn't.
It's a miracle you didn't get hit.
Yeah, I had a guy,
Yeah,
I had
that's
a
crazy.
cop come in and he said he'd been in the armed forces. He said, and what happened here in your bedroom? He said, and I've seen some stuff. He said, this scares me. And he's like, I've heard this before, and it's a saying, you've got somebody looking out for you. I've heard that
Right.
quite a bit. I just always say if you believe in that sort of thing, it's not your time. And I kind of said that. But Rex, he's a good example because I would not have gone to bed except I couldn't figure out what he wanted. I was frustrated, and that's the only reason I went to bed that night so early. So
Wow.
And it was really ironic because she was very upset that she didn't get to do that clearing because it was really Michelle, myself, and Jason who had done the whole investigation, and that was her one part, and that was to help with clearing. And then
They know what clearing means. We're going to help move Rex and some of the spirits, help them cross over because they wanted to move on.
Wow.
So we were there, and she was very upset, and she kept saying, I wish he would show up. I'm upset that this isn't going to get done. We've told them we're coming back. They're going to think we're not coming back. And we have a friend outside of the group who's also a priest. He's a Taoist and Buddhist priest, and he helps us out with certain cases. And he was there, and I was there, and we just told her both of us are very big on things happen for a reason. You may not know what it is, but there is a reason. And so we just kind of gave her that. We kept trying to get in touch, and eventually we said, it's just not going to happen tonight.
Yeah, they said everything happens for a reason, and I'm like, what? We don't get to pass them on? I'm like, this sucks. We've been standing in this parking lot for 2 hours.
Right.
And then, she goes home, and that happens.
Yeah.
And it was like, thank God we didn't clear him.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because that is really what got her frustrated and got her to say, I'm going to stop my regular routine. I'm going to go to bed. And if I remember correctly, you told me a day or two later, the one policeman that looked in your bedroom, there was a shot right near her headboard or in her headboard.
Yeah.
And he told her, he said, if you hadn't have been in the position you were in and you hadn't have been asleep when this started, you would have been shot.
Wow.
It was...
Well, I'm sure the
No
noise of the
debate.
gunfire woke you up, huh?
Here's the weird thing. Everybody knows I can't sleep. I cannot sleep. I can't. Somehow I slept through this entire shooting. I just remember waking up and I couldn't move. I couldn't move. I think it's probably that part of you that's like millions of years old, and
Right.
your consciousness is going, what's going on? And that part of you is going, no, don't move. You're not moving. You might be stupid. We're not.
Wow.
But where was I going with? But yeah, I mean, I woke up at the end. I remember the first thing I looked up, and in the corner of my bedroom, I saw a big hole, and I was in denial. I said, well, maybe like a nail popped or something. And then I felt stuff on my face. I mean, I was out of it. I'm like, maybe I was eating in bed. I don't eat in bed. It was plaster from
Right.
my ceiling and walls. I mean, I was in big time denial.
36 bullets will kick up some
Yeah,
dust.
and I didn't
Yeah.
wake up until the end, and because if I would have woke up and sat up, I could have gotten hit too.
Sure.
So how I slept through all that's another thing. So I'm really grateful for his help, because
Maybe he could just stay at your house.
what?
Yeah. Pretty
that's,
handy guy.
That's another good question. Spirits will visit us, but really the place they call home, they'll visit us for various reasons. All of us have been visited, and then they go back because that's their home, and so they don't. I mean, I'm sure on rare occasion they get attached to people, but I mean, most of the time they go back.
Well, especially somebody that they can connect with,
Right.
like you or Michelle.
I think we've never had one that stayed with us permanently. I don't think any of us have, and I mean, I think we all let it be known. You can come over or maybe not, but you can't stay. I mean, you can't.
So the spirits that are here may not necessarily be stuck here. They might just be visiting. But like,
Earthbound's
okay,
either.
so oh god, this is complicated. So like, if my mom comes to visit, and I see an apparition of my mom, it may not be my mom because it could be a damn shapeshifter. Oh, no. So I can't believe anything I see anymore.
I would say that Earthbounds, those are the ones that cause hauntings. They have never crossed to the other side. I tend to see from what we've seen lately, I tend to think more they choose to stay here for various reasons. And they've never crossed. Like, my mom passed in 2000, and she crossed. Now, once they cross, they can communicate with you. I think it's a little bit harder.
But they don't actually come visit.
They can never be earthbound. They'll come, they'll
That's where the
say...
seance comes in, right?
Yeah, they can talk to you, but they'll never be earthbound again, and their time is limited for whatever reason. They just...
Yeah, they can come visit you. My mom visits me all the time.
Yep, but they don't
Really?
stay, because they're not
But
earthbound.
she comes, checks on me,
Yep.
says hi, and then goes back wherever she.
Wow.
Yes.
And I don't want people to be scared by one thing you said,
Yeah.
including you, because if
Hey. Wait a minute. Now, I got to back up here because we were talking about she got out of the shower and saw herself.
right,
Do you realize how scared I would be if I got out of the shower and saw a 58-year-old dude that looks like me looking at me?
I sure don't want to see myself. I keep all the mirrors coming back.
Yeah, I take hot showers for that purpose, just so the fog, yeah. So,
But-
yeah, that's terrifying, actually. So,
Generally, if you see an apparition, you have some level of sensitivity. Most of the time, most of the people who see that have that.
So is there any
if,
way
for
to-
instance, like I believe you do,
Yeah.
if you were to see your mom, you would get some sort of a sense. Either you would be scared and you would feel alarmed, like something's not right, or you would get a sense of like, this is my mom, I'm not afraid. You might be
you
startled.
don't know my mom at all.
Okay, well,
Yeah, I would be deathly afraid.
but generally you get a sense of it, and it tells you this is not alarming. This is this person. Relatives generally, that's a comforting feeling for most people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say they come in dreams too, or maybe you
Often,
thought you were
yeah.
dreaming, but you really saw it. You might be familiar with the story of "Let It Be," the Beatles. Paul McCartney swears up and down, and he's told the story for years that his mother came to him in a dream, Mother Mary, in my time of need, and wrote that song. Woke up, he saw her, and it felt better, and he stands by that to this day.
Yeah, that's when you're most relaxed, so they'll show up in dreams. A lot of times, although it hasn't happened lately, I'll just about be drifting off asleep, and I'll hear something in my ear, and I can't even think of an example because it's been a while. I heard a lady screaming once. That was scary. I heard my name called. I would post these things on Facebook so I can find them on Facebook, but sometime somebody said something like, Lynette, you got this, and I woke up and I'm like, great. I got what?
Right.
But yeah, so as you're drifting off, I think, and when you're asleep, because your mind is so relaxed and it's not filled with clutter, they use that opportunity. If anybody wants to catch your attention,
So
that's
that
a good
happens to
time.
me quite often,
You hear
but
things-
it'll only be one word.
And-
It's
That's
always
exactly
and it's
what I
always-
was fixing
It's
to
one
say.
word, and it's a word
And
that
we
don't
have
make
not
any
talked
sense.
about this.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I sleep with earplugs in, and when they talk to you, it sounds like they sound, at least to me, like they're in your eardrum. It's not for me. It's not in a distance. It's not
No,
like I
it's right
heard
there.
it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like in your ear, and I sleep with earplugs in, but it sounds like they're almost in your head. It's very personal.
The only experience I've ever had, and I'm not convinced it was anything, was when I was a kid and we lived in a certain apartment, a certain room, at a certain time. When I went to bed, sometimes, this happened 4 or 5 times, in the room, I hear a one-syllable word. And I mean, they're standing right next to me it's like, hey, what? And it's enough to get you to turn the light on and go,
yeah.
huh? And that happened 3 or 4 times. And then you just said the same thing.
Yeah.
One syllable word. Huh?
Yeah, and this is very recent, like within the past week.
What'd they say?
Just different words. I mean, it'll always be something stupid that makes no sense. They,
Yeah.
They what?
You know, a lot of times
If you're going to communicate, then,
Yeah.
have some
a
intelligence.
a sentence at
use a
least.
sentence. Yeah.
Right. Well, it takes a lot of energy for them to
Yes.
be able to audibly.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's easier for some reason for them to be able to imprint audible information on audio recorders or tape recordings versus audible for us to hear. But a lot of times the words are going to have some type of a meaning, whether you're catching a piece of a conversation that they're having between themselves or trying to convey a message. Amy, help me out with this one. We had catfish.
Yeah. So we had a case a couple of years ago out in Flatonia in the hill country. And very, very nice guy. He was in a very, very bad way physically when we took the case. He had some malevolent spirits. He had a lot of spirits in the house, very old house. It had actually been moved from one location to where he was, and where he was a very active area to boot. So it was just the gauntlet of things going on.
Right.
So we got in there, and we were all very close to him on that case, everyone who was on that case. And we were genuinely worried. I can remember Josh actually calling me saying, I'm concerned that if we don't handle this one quickly enough, this guy's going to pass away. And that was a real concern for all of us, is we have to get this problem fixed because his medical problems were so bad, so that he could focus on that in peace and try to get well. We did end up helping going through the investigation. We cleared the spirits that were there at that time, and we did warn him. He was sensitive. That area was super active. More would come in. So later, he did get better. He made practically a full recovery. He was doing great. He kept up with me for a good while. Unfortunately, a few months ago, things took a downturn, and he got worse again, and he did pass away.
Wow.
But his brother, who shares the property with him and kind of looked after him with all his health issues and so forth, he was handicapped. So he let us know when he passed away, and we said we wanted to come to the funeral. That was okay, and he was glad to have us. When we got there, he told us that he actually had, was it a dream, I think?
That was the medium.
Oh, that was with Bill. Okay. So they have a friend that is a medium who had gone out to the house and was, hanging around with his brother. And he told him, he said, he came to me and he told me one word, and he said, just tell my brother, he'll know what it means. And he said, catfish. So he's like, I'm supposed to tell you this word and you'll know what it means. Well, the brother's sitting there going, I have no idea what that means. I have not a clue what he's talking about. If this is valid, I don't know what this is. So he didn't forget it, and he just kind of kept on his way. So when we got there, we're at the funeral, and there was a quiet moment. He approached us, and it was Jason and Michelle and myself, and he said this, do y'all know what this means? And we're sitting there going, no, I have no idea. I mean, why would he say that? And he's like,
right.
I'm thinking about the dating show. Like, is he being catfished in death? What is going on? And give me some time. I got to think about this. So we walked away, and actually Jason was the one that remembered it. When we went to his house the first time, they were so grateful for everything that we did. And they said they wanted to have us out, and he was a chef. And they wanted to have a big fish fry. They were going to have catfish.
Oh, wow.
And do this big fish fry as a thank you to all of us. So when he remembered that and I heard that, I said, oh my God, that's it. Because in the last few months before he died, he was regularly contacting me, and he kept saying, we have some new ones that have come back. And he's like, I don't think my brother wants to clear this. I don't think he wants to deal with this. And he gets angered by the spirit, so he kind of tends to antagonize. And he said, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about my brother. I'm concerned about all the spirits here on the property, and if something happens to me, how that's going to impact him. And, can we talk about having you guys come back? And I said, absolutely. But at the time, he was in the hospital when we were talking, and it's like, as soon as you get out, and we'll come back. And, well, of course, he passed away. So when his brother said this, I said, that was a clue. He wants us to come back and fix this for you so that you're okay. So he's emptying out the house, and he's fixing the house up for sale. And before he sells it, the intent is that he will have us come back in the next few months to clear it
And take
again.
care of it.
And then he's going to move it off the property when he sells it.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a neat story, though. So have you had any other clients, or any clients at all, or anybody that you've heard of, I guess, that have passed due to just being possessed, infected, whatever you call it? I mean, can they do that? Oh, please say no.
I hate that question, because people regularly ask,
Is this ghost going to kill me?
Can they hurt us? Can they kill us?
Well, I know they can hurt you, but I mean, I can deal with being bit or scratched, or I get that from Jackie all the time.
It's rare, and it's a tricky way to answer the question. It's a tricky question. It can happen, but not generally in the way that you're thinking. The ghost is not going to pull a knife and come up and stab you in the chest.
No, but he could.
But he could be on the side of the road and suddenly appear and step out in front of your car and startle you to the point where you swerve and you crash into a tree.
Nice.
You know,
Nice.
so there are ways that technically that can happen. There have been most of the cases where people directly attributed death to a spirit was the person saw them,
So they'll
got
make you hurt
startled, got
yourself.
scared, and had a heart attack.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That kind of thing is more common. So it's generally some kind of physical response in the person that actually causes the death, but it's a result of seeing them. So it's kind of a cause and effect.
And this is another fine example of why I should just do drugs.
It always
I don't
comes back to
advocate that
doesn't
either.
it?
I won't have to be concerned about it. I won't have to worry about
The
it.
most common times, but not kind of the most common, would be in a demonic case, like a true demonic case. Even then, the physical attacks it'll escalate from just mere scratches. But the main, the main thing they'll do is get in your head, like we talked about earlier, and drive
Right.
you to do something. It's less, oh, I'm just going to throw a knife across a room at you. It's going to be, I'm going to subtly influence and change your mood and make you feel a certain, and then something happens because of that. Not so much a direct physical attack.
Yeah, and a lot of times we'll have clients that are just so oppressed with the spiritual activity, especially with malevolence and or demonics, that your own body's immune response
Wearing down.
just wears you down, right? And then you will start to have medical problems secondary to it, not necessarily directly from
Right.
the spirits,
That makes
but
sense.
I was thinking more of along the lines of just taking over your body
it can happen.
and just walking you off the roof, you know?
Very, very, very
Very
rare.
rare. Yeah.
Yeah, very rare.
Now,
Alright.
having said that, like Michelle has more hands-on experience with living with a demonic than anybody else here. And she lives in a place that is spiritually active, unlike the rest of us, and seems to kind of be a target for negative
Yes.
activity.
So do you
Yes.
choose to do so, or you just, what's the deal? I mean,
Choose to.
to live in an atmosphere that's filled with
No,
spirits? Or,
they're just there.
really?
Yeah.
Do you think they'd be there no matter where you went, though? Do you think you're one of those people they just, like a magnet, I guess? You know?
I think so.
Yeah. See, I kind of feel that way myself.
How
Like,
long
what
has
do I
that
mean,
been
man?
going on?
You know?
How long has that been going on?
Oh, I mean, I've had things around me my whole life. But at this particular place, there are entities there that have been there since the beginning of time. You know, and really can't talk a whole bunch about it because my employers don't like it. Yeah, things will go wrong, and they'll be like, "Oh, Michelle's demons are doing it again," and it's like, I didn't do it. But yeah, I mean, they've been around me my whole life.
Well, apparently you've learned to live with it.
Yeah.
Doesn't really
Deal with
bother
it.
you a whole lot. You don't really get scared.
No, not much scares me. When I was a teenager, for a few years, that's where I had my scary years.
Right.
So I think I haven't come across anything that remotely comes close to that since then. So like I survived that, so I think I can handle, you know, anything else. When I was about 15, I had something, an entity. I made some bad choices and played with things that I should not have played with, you know, Ouija board and
Right.
everything else, and inadvertently invited something in. In the beginning, like they often do, it pretended to be my friend. I treated it as a party trick. My friends threw over and say, hey, he said his name was Frank. He'd say, hey Frank, make my phone ring. And my phone would ring. Hey Frank, turn off my light, and my light would turn off. It was a party
Wow.
trick,
It's like having a
my house
customized
was a
remote.
spooky house, and you know what I mean?
Hey Frank, change the channel.
Right? Yeah. And
Frank,
that's
give
what
me a drink.
I treated it like
Yeah, I
that.
like
It was
it.
a party trick. Hey, he's my friend, but in reality, he was not. He was just gaining my trust. And a few months after that, things went very, very wrong and very bad. I spent months and months and months not being able to sleep in my room because it was in my room.
yeah.
I would wake up with bloody nose. It would beat the crap out of me in my sleep. I was covered in scratches. So much to the point where the school thought that my parents were abusing me.
Wow.
You know, and it wasn't them. It was whatever was in my room. And, you know, and it caused chaos in my entire household because my mom, she believed me and she felt helpless. You know, how can I help you? How can we fight something that we can't see? You know?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Yeah.
And she felt terrible. So it caused a lot of stress. And I had to sleep on my brother's floor in his room forever because I refused to go in there at night, you know, because I knew I was going to wake up with a black eye or a bloody nose.
It was only
or
at
a fat
night?
lip.
Mainly at night.
You know, but it was, you know, during the day too. Like, at one time, I had a fish tank, and it made my camera. I had shelves, and it made my camera take a picture, and I, you know, got sassy with it. You know, said, don't touch my effing stuff.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's where I'm
I
at.
got sassy with it. I was on the phone with my boyfriend at the time, I believe, and it just came up and smacked me across the face as hard as it could. The cordless, you know, the old, you know, 90s cordless phones, you know.
The good ones, yeah.
Yeah, like the AT&T ones. Like,
there you go.
It went right through my fish tank. You know, it smacked me so hard, the phone went flying into the fish tank. My fish were all over the floor, and I'm like, okay, that's the last time I'm going to mouth off to you.
So where's Frank now?
It was very weird. It was, you know, a lot of torment and chaos, and then one day he was gone. It all stopped. You know, my mom blessed the house. She was very Catholic. You know, blessed the house. She put, you know, crucifixes all over my room. You know, anything and everything you can, you know, imagine. She was talking to the church. You know, but just one day it just stopped.
Wow.
So I don't know if maybe he used up all his energy or he found somebody else to go mess with. I don't know.
So now, when you do have something that starts picking, how do you put a stop to that? I mean, do you just verbally say, "Look, I'm not in the mood for this. I'm not going to do it," or "I'm not going to fall victim to your BS"? Or
A lot of times I'm very.
And the reason why I'm asking is because I need ammunition myself in case, you know.
Well, my big thing, you know, since then I wasn't as I didn't deal with it as much, but now I'm very much setting boundaries.
And how do you do that exactly? I mean, just verbally or?
Verbally.
Yeah.
Mentally. Just, you know, set boundaries. What you're going to allow and what you're not going to allow. You know, you're not welcome here. You need to leave. This is my space. You know, and keep saying it. Say it until you believe it.
Yeah.
You know, that's.
And, you know, there's a part of me that immediately what kicks in, I don't want to be rude. You know, I don't want to be rude. What if this thing was here before I was here? You know, what if it's not my space?
Well, and that's a good observation.
Yeah, you can be nice. I mean, honestly, you can't. I don't believe you can really make anything leave. You can talk to it and try to convince it to leave. But I always say, and I'll let Amy talk. I talk to them nicely. It works for me, but everybody's got, I guess, their own way. Really, you have to find your own way, though.
Well,
right?
we occasionally make stuff leave, but only when we have to.
It just seems like when I hear, because I'm having problems again in my room, and when I hear something, it's always on a night when I need to go to sleep because I've got something that's going on the next day that's important. You know what I mean? It's never, you know, on a Friday night when, you know, 11 o'clock or something like that and nothing's going on the next day. It'll be quiet as hell. Nothing will happen in there. But if I've got to get up at 4 a.m. or something like that, yeah, and it's simple stuff. It's like my iPad, when it's plugged in, will go, you know, I'm like, come on, really? Please stop, you know? And then I just try to force myself to go to sleep. But you don't sleep the same when you're already in that mindset. Then you're sleeping light and you're listening to every little thing, you know, and and so then you wake up the next morning, you're not in a good mood and bleary-eyed, and so that's got to end.
Yeah.
You know, and I wish that I didn't have any sensitivity or whatever to these things, because then I wouldn't hear it, wouldn't see it, it just wouldn't even be there. It wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, unfortunately it is. And why here?
There's spirits like all over. I think we pretty much agree. They're all over.
I want to go somewhere where they're not. So, yeah.
Well, you know, we do tell people all the time to set boundaries, like she was talking about, though. And that's not being rude. You can do that in a nice way. You know, if the spirit is poking you in the arm, let's say all night while you're trying to sleep,
Yeah.
you can say, I don't mind you being here. You're welcome to be here with me. But please don't do this. This bothers me. It makes me unable to sleep. And I would really appreciate if you don't do this. I mean, you can totally take a sincere and kind route about it, letting them know, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not saying you're not welcome here. I'm not fussing at you. I'm just
Right.
asking you to respect my wishes and what is good for me.
Yeah, and I always go to the other end of that because I don't know what their intentions are. And I always assume their intentions are not good. And so since their intentions are not good, I'm going to come off, hey, man.
See, I would look at it the other way. And that's what we do when we approach them versus a lot of other teams. That makes, I think, a big difference. Because we treat them all with kindness. Unless or until there
Y'all are
is a
just nice
reason
people.
not to treat them with kindness.
There's
Yeah.
a
Well,
case.
on the cases, when they come to my place and wake me up, I tell them to F off, and I
Yeah.
roll over and go back to sleep, like, because that's my space.
There's a case we're working on actually right now. The next thing we have to do on it's the clearing, but it was my first time dealing with a human spirit that had done particularly nasty things in life, and the first time we entered communication with that spirit, I was quite upset and kind of because he had killed children, and something about that just set me off, and I was just being, for lack of a better word, an a-hole to him in session, and she had to tell me to kind of calm down. But later on, and after further communication with him, we figured out that he had a traumatizing past, and that afterwards he felt so guilty that he took his own life because of it, and in a way that kind of made me like, okay, yeah, I see where, and not that I agree with what you did by any means, but I see where you were coming from and saw
Right.
what led up to this, and kind of allowed me to empathize with the spirit, and it was kind of a eye-opening experience in a way, for
Yeah.
sure.
Wow.
Hurt people hurt other people.
Sure.
You know, it's one of those things. So
It is a
negativity
vicious
breeds
cycle in a
negativity,
lot of
and
different ways.
positivity breeds positivity.
Makes sense. So I got a good question, I think. Do you have any atheist clients? Clients who just
Yep.
don't believe, but they're still going along with it, and they know and understand what's going
Team
on.
members is now.
Yeah. Actually,
Really?
my original co-founder was atheist.
Really?
Yeah. And he brought in Lynette to the team, and I brought in Chris and my niece who used to be with us. And that was our original team when we very first started.
It
That.
seems so unusual, though. I mean,
Yeah,
because
how would
it
an
seems-
atheist
yeah, how would it
even
work?
entertain the idea of a spirit or a soul or anything
Well, see,
like that?
he and I
That
would
was my
get
question
into
all
these
the time.
discussions. We would just get into it for hours, you know, going way off into stuff because I was like, you've seen this stuff. You've heard this stuff. You know it's real. So how can you sit there and tell me that you die and that's the end and there's nothing else? And he's like, well, I guess at this point with what I've experienced, I can't be called a true atheist because I know there's something. But I'm not going to believe in God and heaven and the devil and hell and this kind of thing.
Right.
I just believe that maybe there's some scientific explanation for this other stuff. You know, and a lot of like the parapsychologists and all do have a different idea about it. While they acknowledge spirits and that's their specialty, they look at them as place memories, if you've ever heard that term.
I have, yeah.
And it's more with them, it's kind of a scientific echo, I guess, if you will,
Right.
would be the best way to describe it, that like left an imprint on that area. Now, there are residual
possible.
hauntings, and I look at
Right.
what they're calling as a residual haunting. My problem with the whole place memory theory is that's a piece of it. It's not the whole thing. You have the other part. What about the ones that are communicating with us? What about the ones that we're telling them turn on the light and they're turning it off? We say turn off the light and they turn it off. Mm-hmm. That's not residual. That's hearing me. That's understanding me. That's
Interacting
Exactly.
at the moment. Yeah.
Intelligent, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember if we mentioned it in one of the other interviews, but then we have we've had a couple of instances where they would actually, in our investigations and our sessions, we have a lot of cut up time, this and that, and so the stuff can go sideways in conversation. But there was an instance where we had one of our former team members in a session, and little girl, 20 years old.
Oh, that one.
And,
You have to bring that up.
oh yeah, and me and her were doing a session. They know.
Hey, this is gonna get good.
So we're
Hold on, let me adjust myself.
we're in the middle of a session, not getting anything. Just the room is super quiet, no activity whatsoever, and so she just lets out this huge belch. I mean, the rooms, the walls shake when she does it. I mean, it's big.
An Italian food belt.
Right.
Yeah.
And
She sounds fun.
Yeah. I said, my gosh, we're going to start calling you Bubba. And as soon as I said that, we got an EVP. The only thing we got in the whole session was Bubba. Ha ha.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so now we get this, and she's got her show to
I'm
review.
less than thrilled because I had already gotten onto her about this and doing that, and I'm like, anything can happen at any time in those rooms. There are certain subjects that everybody knows are taboo, and sometimes it does get off, but it's like, okay, at some point, steer it back in, because undoubtedly that's going to be the moment when something is said and I'm over there going, and I have to show this to the client. I mean, so sometimes they are laughing with us here. I'm like, excuse the antics, but in this case, I explained, I said, she did this, but apparently the spirit found it comical, so it worked out well, and he
That's
interacted
cool. It's good to know
because
they
of
have
it.
senses of humor too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So they do.
that's actually where I was going with that story. I mean, the residual, that just wouldn't fit with residual energy. I
Right.
mean, you've
That's a
actually
call
got
and
an
response.
intelligent-
That's an interaction.
Yeah, that is a bona fide interaction with what's going on in the current situation.
Well, I know it could be just about anything in the whole wide world, but what does it mean? And it could mean a lot of things. When a spirit or an entity or a ghost or some weird something in your house is moving your stuff around,
That can be
hiding your things, and you look for them,
Yeah, I've had that happen. I think they just want your attention, probably.
they want your attention for what reason?
They
Help.
stay.
They'll have their own
Yeah,
reason,
they
I'm
want
sure.
help. I mean, okay, so usually in houses, I don't think we've ever come in a house where there's just one spirit. There's usually multiple spirits, and they each favor a certain room. So I feel like they're together but separate. So I feel like they like company, but despite having other spirits there, they really seem to want to interact with humans. And it could be, the only thing I can think of is what someone said, is that they want help and to be noticed. And I've had stuff move around on me before I even started doing this, and it would scare me, and I'd get mad and upset. Because they do things, it's not, when they do something, they try to make it pretty obvious. At least they did with me. Sometimes you just feel like you're crazy, like you can't find something, and then it pops up like later where you just
When you look in a certain spot
Yeah.
and it's not there, and you go looking around, and you come back, and there it is where you already looked?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a number of things. They want your attention. Maybe they think it's.
It's hard to negotiate with something that you really can't communicate
Yeah,
with.
I've asked them to bring things back. I can't. I've said, look, I'm like, if you can bring it back, I kind of need it. I'm just gonna leave it alone. And I think this is probably when I lived in the apartment complex that I live in now, but a different apartment. And eventually, it popped up in a real obvious place. It was a key I needed for my locker
It's
for
always
work.
keys. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's always keys.
It's like
yeah.
jewelry or small electronic devices. But
Or silverware.
I've come home from the laundromat and I had like all my clothes and I
Paranormal
spread them out on the
attracted
bed.
to shiny objects.
Yeah, and I had a white shirt on top, and I was there alone. There were no animals, and I looked all over, and I came back in the room, and sitting right in the middle on top of that white shirt on top of my laundry pile was my key, and I am 100% it wasn't there because I just dragged all that stuff back from. There's no way.
Right.
I'm like, thanks.
They also get your attention in like other ways, and sometimes we had one spirit that was at a case that it was for whatever reason it was taking us a long time to get there to clear it, and I think actually did he pop up here?
He popped up
No, he did. No, we warned him that he might, but he didn't. That's what happened.
Good.
When we did your clearing.
He popped up in 2 other clearings that we were doing.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had
Yeah.
her in meditation, and all of a sudden she would be like, so and so is here, and I'm like, oh God, because we've got the family, and we're there dealing with what they know they have, and this particular spirit had a very ugly history.
Yeah.
And so I would have to do this is not the time, so it was like,
It keep
we're
popping up,
going
yeah.
to help you, but this is not the
He was-
time and place to delve into that story.
That spirit, he was from Tomball, right?
Yes.
Well, he would, and it wasn't even like, oh, I'm just gonna come down the street of Little Piece. He went from Tomball to Jasper, just
but
to say,
were in
are you still
Jasper,
coming to talk to us?
Texas.
But they can
Just-
go like that.
yeah.
They move faster than light.
Right.
They move faster, I think, than you can think a thought. I think that's how fast they can move. The Taoist priest that Amy mentioned, he and I were working on a case in British Columbia, just through some photos that he showed me, and the kids would just, boom, there were kids in that case. They showed up in my apartment. Boom, they showed up in a meditation that I did with him. Boom, boom, they're there, they're gone. But yeah, Amy, I have to say, the spirit she was just talking about had such a checkered past. She was beautiful with him. I mean, I had a hard time telling her the story about what I thought had happened with him and his daughter and the family. It was really even hard to tell her. I'm getting choked up now, but we ended up helping him, and Amy did a beautiful job, because it's normal to want to pass judgment, but you can't help them or the other spirits around them or the clients. You have to try to put your feelings aside as best you can and use common sense and try to help them, especially if they're sorry and they genuinely want help. I think that's probably what helped Amy, is that he wanted help, because the story, I won't go into it, it was kind of yucky.
Yeah, whenever they have remorse for the horrible things they've done, it's a lot easier for me to pull that empathy. Because I'm
They're
looking at it
resisting
going,
you.
okay, you've been here for 200 years dwelling in this. You talk about people going to jail for something they did and serving their time. How much time have you served, in a sense, for what you did?
Sure.
I know people
So-
that can hold a grudge for at least that long.
Yeah,
Look,
it
man,
still
I've gotten
doesn't make
over
it
it.
right.
It's not that big
Not
of a
you.
deal.
Just look at the spirit that I don't remember which one from here that we cleared, because I remember there were the 2 here that were.
Yeah,
friends.
Bobby's still here.
Yeah.
Bobby is definitely still here. And
But,
we've got a couple in the house that are undetermined
They
right
both,
now.
but they both had the.
And then she cleared one. I don't remember what.
They had the disdain for the prison system because
Yeah.
of what happened to them between the 2 of them, and they got
Yeah.
upset because of that, which we found out later. But that just shows you they've been sitting here since that time, just dwelling on that.
Yeah.
And it really is kind of sad. I mean, when you start looking at that, despite what horrible things they may have done, we're all human. And at some point, you have to feel, my God, you sat there for 200 years in the dark by yourself thinking of that every minute of every day. I mean, that's some kind of torture. You went through
Yeah, it's
that.
terrible.
You're sorry about it. I'm a minister. It's not my job to judge. I'm going to send you up there and help you get up there, and what happens up there, that's beyond my control. But it's not my place to judge you and say, you don't deserve this because of what happened.
One spirit I wasn't on the team at the time, but one spirit they talked to, they were kind of run out of questions just to ask him personally, and we're just kind of like, okay, well, what's it like up there? What do you see? And he described it as some kind of hell.
Oh, wasn't that Teresa, though? No, okay. Didn't she
What's
say
it
it's
like
an
where?
endless darkness?
In purgatory, in the in
We've had a few
between.
that said-
When they're
Oh.
earthbound, stuck
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
Right.
We've gotten descriptions like lonely, dark,
Cold, wet.
cold, miserable.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Amy said, they're sitting here dwelling on the
That's
stuff
what I
that
thought
they-
when she said 200 years of penance. That sounds like hell to me.
Yeah.
That's actually
Yeah.
the spirit he was talking about before. That's what he told me. He said this is some kind of hell.
Which case was that?
That was Barb.
Oh, that,
That
was
one
it?
was Barb.
That was
So do you think there could be just a single episode in a person's life, and maybe while they're alive they've kind of let it go and forgot about it, but then when they die it comes back up, and then they end up getting stuck here over that?
If it's traumatic enough, yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Ah,
It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to.
Well,
They choose, it seems like.
You're gonna get stuck here because of what he did to you.
With your pants down.
That
I
would
think
just
it's
be
hard
typical.
for some people to
Stuck out on the football field, my shorts around my ankles.
Group of girls
it's
laughing.
have you really been able to resolve the issue and move past it?
Right.
We can fool ourselves and say, yeah, it doesn't bother me anymore, and this and that. So, I mean, the issue could still be there.
Yeah.
gotta
Right.
really
Yeah, see,
forgive
Yeah,
yourself.
Like
Yeah.
one of the spirits at the Ott, she was having an affair. And the husband came and found her there with the person she was having the affair with. Killed, didn't it? Help me remember the story because it was so convoluted. I think he killed the guy. And then she went after him and he killed. Or did she kill him? She killed him. I think he
Yeah.
killed the guy and
Yeah.
then she killed him.
Wow.
And then ended up just kind of wasting away and dying there. But it was such a big ordeal, such a dramatic, all these people dying pretty quickly in this place.
For those
this
reasons.
huge emotional
Sure,
turmoil and
yeah.
everything for all of them is wrapped up in this. And they have both intelligent and residual haunting at the Ott.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah, the
one of
Ott's
the
cool.
things
I like
people
that place.
commonly hear is like a gunshot at a certain like point in the year and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it that part is a place memory, but she is there also as an intelligent spirit that we had quite good communications with for
Yeah.
over an hour.
Yeah.
And we may have covered this before, but I got to ask it again because I think maybe I have Alzheimer's or something. But why night? How come there's not a lot of activity during the day? It seems like mainly it's at night.
Yeah,
I think,
there's a couple of reasons.
yeah, I think for me, it's easier for me when it's dark and it's quiet to perceive them. I think they're around, and I'll let Amy answer, all the time, but I think it's easier for us to perceive them at night. That's my opinion.
Just because things are quieted down and your mind is a little bit more
That's what
relaxed.
The quiet is part of it. I mean, you picture you're at home, it's a Saturday afternoon. You've got, you know, the next door neighbor's kids running around, the dog's outside running around, the guy on the other side's mowing his lawn, you got cars passing. There's so many things
you're
going
missing
on to
the signals,
distract
yeah.
you. At night, okay, everything's quiet.
Yeah.
Nobody's outside. Maybe you got your TV on kind of low. You're just sitting there quiet in your space. You're going to
Nobody
be
here
a
but us
lot
ghosts.
more susceptible and hearing and noticing of what's going on around you in that environment.
Wow.
And it's a vulnerability thing. A lot
Yeah,
of people
for me,
talk
that's the
about
way it
seeing
always
things when they
feels,
get
yeah.
out of the shower. Or when they're laying down trying to go to sleep
Mm-hmm.
and like you were saying, things come to you in dreams and all. Those are vulnerable times, right? If somebody comes into your house when you're laying in your bed at night, you're vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not up and ready and, okay, I'm going to take you on. You're in a relaxed state. It's quiet. It's dark. You know, that
Wow.
just naturally vulnerable moments. So there's something to all of that. And I think that's why nighttime is so good. In addition, with certain ones, like with the demonic cases, even though that is more rare, you know, you have things that are referred to as the witching hour and the demon
3
hour.
a.m. Isn't that the witching hour? 3
Yeah,
a.m.?
witching hour is generally.
Jeez, I hate waking up at 3:33, and it happens all the time. But lately, it's been 4:44, and I don't know why, but I can wake up and I'll be like, "No, it's not. No, it's not." And I look over at 4:44. I'm like, "Son of a bitch."
And the number doesn't mean anything to you? No?
I guess my big lucky number is 4, but not 3 of them. Any kind of a triangle thing kind of freaks me out anyway. So, you know, when you get 4:44, I'm like, ah, crap, this ain't gonna be good. You know.
Really, 3 a.m. is kind of the prime, you know, little demonic hour. That's their time, so people say. Now, that being said, they can interact at any time they want to, so it's not like this is a guideline. But a lot of times, houses that have that kind of activity will have like an activity spike around that time of night. So whenever we legitimately think it could be a demonic case, those are always the ones we stay much later on because we kind of have to stay till after that mark to see what's going on.
Yeah. And so to tell whether it's malevolent or demonic, I guess it's just you got to use a sensitive to be able to figure that out.
Definitely helps. It helps a lot, but it's not everything. Once you deal with some of both, you kind of get a sense of how those cases run. You get a sense of what the spirits are telling you, what the clients are telling you, and I am noticing, unfortunately, for a lot of these people, that a lot of our clients that are truly afflicted by demonics have similar things in their history as a person. You know, they pick on certain people for a reason. Most of my demonic clients have had, you know, physical or sexual abuse, drug use in an immediate family member. You know, there are several key components, and I can literally, practically at this point, from having so many of them, go down the list. And when they start talking to me, of course, they feel like they're the only one. So I'll start saying, you know, in most cases, these things will happen. And then I'll have the person sitting there, oh my God, that happened to me. Yeah, that happened to me.
Wow.
You know, and it's every time. It's like I could make the checklist with the boxes and sit there and check them off. It just seems they kick you when you're down. And people that have had those experiences, they're more vulnerable to it. So it's like, ha.
So do you ever come across the case where you think somebody's been affected by either a malevolent or demonic and they just turn out to be schiz? Because, I mean, I've been around people who are schizophrenic and they're convincing, man. You know, I mean, they really are.
I mean, they really do see things. It's
Yeah.
just their
That's
minds,
their reality.
Yeah, their minds, what they show them is very real to that person. It's got to sell.
Right. So how are you able to make that determination and
These
separate
guys
it out?
kind of get protected from that. They get removed from that because all of that is through me initially. I will not take a case until I initially talk to that person. And there's a great deal of back and forth before our feet ever hit the ground at their house between myself and them. So we already have an established relationship when I show up the first time.
So you've already
with
got
these
an
guys.
idea if they're yeah.
That first initial call is usually a very long call. I won't volunteer very much at all. I have them tell me what they're experiencing, what's going on. I want to know who else is in the house, what they're experiencing. Is it just you? There's a whole lot of questions that are specific that I ask to determine.
And so you got your own scorecard, kind of.
I do.
Yeah, that's cool.
And some people, you know, they have some issues maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them will flat out tell me, you know, I had a drinking problem. Maybe this distorts my perception. I want to know if I'm crazy or if this is really happening. You know, there's a lot of different things with that. And I do legitimately have some people that you would say are crazy that have called.
Yeah.
I help them too, just in a different way. There was one night, a year back, I guess, in our old house during the pandemic, that this guy called me, and it was maybe 10 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anything the next day, which is rare for me, but I didn't. And he was just, I mean, he was coming off the wheels because he thought his son was possessed by a demon, and he was convinced, and he had thrown the son out, and he was thinking about taking the daughter and putting her in the RV, and they were just going to go off and roam the desert, and he was going to take her out of school. And it came out, of course, that he had no family. He had no friends. He had been locked in his house with the pandemic, and I knew exactly what's going on. This guy is losing it. He's getting detached. And all I could think about was...
happened to a lot of people during the whole lockdown, yeah.
Yeah, he's telling me, you know, thank you for talking to me, and nobody else would return my calls or take my calls. Well, I know why. But if I do the same thing and I hang up on this guy didn't get any help. He's talking about taking his daughter across the country. He's going to mess up her life and rip her away.
Right.
So I talked to him. I talked to him for hours. I think it was about 5 a.m. when I got off the phone.
Wow.
By the time we got off the phone, he wasn't going to do that. He was calmed down. He was going to think about things, and maybe he had incorrectly, you know, assessed the thing with his son, and he was going to let him back in and set down some parameters and just talk to him. Now, was that enough of a fix for a person like this? Definitely not. I recommended several things while we talked, certain types of therapy, certain types of things that I carefully wove in there. That's what's needed. I can't provide that. But if I can steer you in the right direction and give you some kind of help for what your issue is, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, and you gave the dude what he needed at the time.
Right.
So
Enough
that's
to
good.
not have the daughter being taken out, you know?
Take a break.
Go for it. I got
Sorry, everybody.
There was a
I'm
case
dying over there.
that I'm not going to get too far into it because there's a lot of convoluted stuff. But there was one case that we did take where there was an individual in it who had some very slight mental illness. And they was at a height of their mental illness, but everyone else in the house was experiencing things as well. Not specifically just that one person, which was
that's got to be tough.
Which was why we took it, and some of it, of course, was that person just making up stuff, and it wasn't real. But to a degree, some of it was, and unfortunately, there are times when people with different mental illnesses, like schizophrenia, stuff like that, where they are not only being affected by their ailment, but also seeing things or hearing things that are in fact real, and it's very difficult to ascertain whether or not, and she does an amazing job at being able to ascertain that. And we mentioned the Taoist priest that we worked with before. He's also a life coach and a trained therapist, so we'll refer a lot of people that we don't believe we can help to him in order to help him fix their issues, and later on down the line, if they require an actual paranormal team to come out and do stuff, then we'll act from there. But
That's cool. Y'all's professionalism always shines through. You know, it blows me away that y'all handle things so scientifically and specifically. I'm like, wow, you know, because it's an interesting subject, the whole thing, but it's really kind of narrow, you know. And so to be able to attack it from all those different angles, that's unusual. And I can see what you were talking about with everybody having a specific talent. I mean, it's what a dynamic team, you know. I don't know how you assembled this group, but good job.
Some of it was luck, and some of it I just like to think I picked really well. I say all the time, you know, when people will tell me, since most of my contact is direct with the clients, they'll tell me, thank you so much. And it's like, I couldn't do it without these guys behind me.
And
I have the best team anyway.
and she's a hell of a teacher.
Yeah, seems to be.
it was actually quite crazy. My first investigation and leading from that, because I mean I watched the shows growing up, and then I watched her review, and I was, but it's like almost like the whole starting a session, like blah blah blah. It's just like I don't even have to think about it. I just ramble it off because I've heard it for so long that it's like I was trained to do it.
Right. So do you think that you were saying that a lot of these things are occurring more often now? Do you think a lot of that has to do with the fact that so much of this has been televised and it's in the media so much?
A little bit. You know, you look at the state of the world without getting political or opinionated about it, you know. We've got pandemics. We've got, you know, horrible hurricanes, wars,
Right.
you know, all the political unrest. You've got so many things going on. And I know that there are a lot of people who genuinely look at it like the rapture is beginning and that kind of thing. You know, whether
Yeah,
it is or not.
I told Mark when we got raptured up, he could have all my stuff.
There you go. Good deal.
I've been kicking your chair for 20 minutes, man.
But yeah, I think all of that plays into things. You know, again, negativity breeds negativity, positivity breeds
Right.
positivity. You have all this negative, this unrest, this anger. People are frustrated.
Yeah.
Things are coming to this boiling point. That is going
I would imagine
to
there'd be
affect
a
what's
lot more
around
of
us.
it just due to the pandemic itself.
I think
you know?
it's more noticed because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Again, everybody's sitting in their homes in the quiet and not
Yeah.
distracted. But I think it was already there. They just weren't aware of it. They were going about their busy lives not
Yeah.
noticing. And now it's, oh, I noticed.
Yeah.
And everybody still that calls me, it's like, I'm the only one. Why is this happening to me? No, you're not the only one. I'm scheduling you 2.5 months out because I got somebody every week that this is happening to. You know, it happens so much more commonly than people know.
Right.
People don't want to talk about that, you know, but it's super common.
And I keep waiting for the Hank. There's nothing to be afraid of. But really, in a way, I guess there is, you know?
You know,
So I'm kind of paranoid that one of these demonic things will just end up here. If it's going to go anywhere, trust me, it's going to end up here.
You didn't have to show up. You're already scared.
And I don't know how to deal with the damn thing, you know?
No,
Call us
Yeah,
for starters.
yeah, exactly. I don't like to instill fear, and I hope that these sessions don't do that.
No, it's,
because
I've
I
actually
very
gotten a
much
lot better.
don't wanna do
You know, I can come out here at night now. I don't really have a problem. But when I walk in the door, first thing I'm doing is, hey, Bobby, what's up, man? You know? And so that kind of, I think, has helped.
Yeah, being able to coexist and treat them with respect.
Yeah.
Always.
Helps.
Yeah, exactly. And always until there's a reason that you can't treat them with respect.
Right.
You want to always go that route, and it helps to be able to coexist that way.
There's a lot of times, I know we've mentioned this in a past one, I believe, but the main thing to remember is the majority of the time, aside from the demonics, which are very rare and stuff like that, you're just dealing with people. They have their own personalities, their own interests, and it's not something so much to be scared of because it's just another person. You can talk to them, work to just saying,
Just
I know
can't
you're,
see.
yeah,
Slick, I
I
like
know
it,
you're
yeah.
here. Like when you're walking in, you said you walk in like, "What's up, Bobby?" You're letting him know you're with him in a sense, and you're
Yeah.
kind of creating that kinship, that relationship. I had have a spirit that kind of hangs around me a lot. That it's been around me for so long that it's almost like we've kind of got a weird friendship.
Yeah.
And he's sarcastic a lot, so he'll do stuff like I'll move something and he'll purposely move it. I'm like, I know that was why. It's just like
Yeah.
like you're pranking each other back and forth, almost kind of like the relationship y'all have with each other. It's people, and they're people still after death, and that's an important thing to remember.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah, people will come out and say, you know, this is really scary and they're all evil and this kind of. No, it's a person. And what you're looking at is, you know, this thing ran up and, you know, clapped me on the leg and it's scary and it's evil and it's trying to hurt me. That could be a kid. A kid that something horrible happened to, that's stuck there, that's just trying to do that to get your attention.
Yeah,
You
just
know,
hoping
and when
that
you
somebody will be able to
humanize
help.
it like that and you start looking at it like, you know, and
you
these
assign
clients
it
find out.
evil intentions, and that's not even the case.
Right.
Yeah.
And when these people find out, you know, oh, I thought this was some scary, hideous man or deformed, demonic looking thing, and now, you know, it's this child that died in this storm, and, you know, they lost their parents, and, you know, all of these kind of things. Then the person's like, oh my God, this is so sad.
Yeah.
And it's really making it human. You have to start to visualize it as human to see that and have that empathy and find that coexistence. It's just a person that something horrible happened to and they're still here.
Wow.
And there's also with that, like you were saying earlier, you still get. I mean, you're not scared as much as you were, but it's best to remain. And the best thing, a way I could say it, is to remain cautious.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're people. Sometimes they're not, although that's more rare. But it's best to remain cautious and kind of keep that leery attitude, but don't completely shut it all out. This is all evil. I don't want to deal with it. Because all that doesn't help anything. It doesn't help move them on. It doesn't, and in fact, it will probably contribute to making it worse because they're only going to keep trying to get your attention. And
Right.
Yeah. And that being said, you know, if you do have something like you were saying that comes in that is obviously evil, that is trying to hurt you, that is really physically attacking you, call for help. Don't try. I always encourage people, don't try to deal with that yourself. I like to give the analogy of if you're not an electrician and you know nothing about electricity and your house, the wiring is all messed up, and you go up in the attic and you realize,
don't mess
man,
with it. Yeah.
this thing needs to be rewired. Are you going to just start taking stuff apart and rewire it? Or are you going to call an electrician? Of course you're going to call an
Or lighting a
electrician.
furnace.
You know, it's the same kind of thing. People don't look at us in that capacity, but that's what we are. We're service professionals. It's just that our service is a little bit different than the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad y'all are around. So, yeah, y'all have really helped me out a lot here. At least got me to understand a lot more than I knew before, because when we first met, I knew nothing other than the fact that I was just basically paranoid all the time. So it's gotten a lot better, and I've learned a lot. I'm not so sure I'm happy about the whole shapeshifter thing, but I wasn't happy about the other stuff either, and I just kind of dealt with it.
To be fair, neither am I. There are two things that we run into, that we have run into at least, that I get very like, why does it have to be that of all things? It's demonics and shapeshifters.
Yeah.
Something about a shapeshifter just rubs me wrong. I'm just like, no, I don't like it. I don't want to.
Yeah, doesn't sound right. Well, Mark, you got anything else on the plate?
No, except that I would like to say that during the course of the last 58 or 59 years, you have come out on the better end of things. He's got some stuff that he's inflicted upon me way worse than the gym shorts. So we won't get into all that. Not that I'm keeping score.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I've enjoyed this, and after watching the other podcasts, meeting you guys has been great.
Yeah, it's always
Thank you
been
for coming
good.
out, especially in this weather.
So, yeah, the weather's been nasty, so I appreciate all of you showing up. And again, guys, it's hard to get this whole group together, so this is not actually a miracle, but it's pretty much darn close. Michelle, Lynette, Amy, God, everybody.
Chris, Jason, Jaden, Josh.
Hey,
Right. You were close.
but good having everybody show up again, and I guess we're eventually going to do it again. So, I like to having you guys around. It's been good. Well, guys, if you've subscribed to the channel, thank you. We're well on our way, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. We got a real interesting podcast guest coming tomorrow. I don't want to give away who it is, but I think everybody's going to be pretty darn surprised. So look for these two to be up here real soon, and make sure and call these guys if you think you have a problem, and they'll handle it professionally and do it the right way. They can be found on Facebook and
Pretty much anywhere. We're listed Google, Yelp, all of them.
wow. And so what's your
that phone number?
which Facebook address?
281
Okay, go ahead.
825-8618.
And your Facebook address?
We're under Spring Paranormal Investigations, SPI.
Cool. Okay, great. All right, guys. Well, I guess that's about it. We've run out of time, but man, I had a good time. It was nice sitting here with the mics on and listening to the rain hit the building. All right, we'll see you again. Bye-bye. All right.
God damn it.